Good morning, folks, and welcome to the AAF Coffee Break Series for 2023. I'm Melroy from the Australian Access Federation, and one of the things that I do at the AAF is look after the Australian ORCID Consortium. Now, that's not orchid as in the flower, but ORCID as in ORCID, which is a persistent identifier for researchers. Now, today we are going to be discussing a range of things on ORCID, and at the end of it, we should have time for a few questions. But in the studio today, I'm joined by our very own Brian Minihan, who is the ORCID Consortia lead for the APAC and North American regions. Good morning, Brian, and welcome to Brisbane. Why don't you tell everyone a bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Melroy. Thank you, AAF, for having me. I'm Brian Minihan. I'm an engagement lead for ORCID. Engagement is the part of ORCID that communicates with the global community. I'm responsible for consortia such as Australia, as well as the Asia Pacific and North American consortia as well.
So, Brian, I understand that there was an ORCID town hall meeting that happened towards the end of March. Now, for those of us who did not get a chance to attend, would it be possible to give us a quick summary of the key messages of that meeting?
Sure. The town hall was largely a cap on 2022 progress and a preview of projects that we're going to undertake in 2023. So, for instance, we largely cover our strategic themes: increasing value to researchers, increasing value to member organizations, increasing global participation, and maintaining trust and integrity. So, for example, some of the aspects that were of interest to, or increasing value to researchers, were contributor roles or the credit taxonomy, available now in ORCID records. That was in 2022. And in 2023, we're hoping to increase export options from ORCID records to increase value to researchers. From member organizations such as the Australian Consortia. In 2022, we came out with a new tiered model to allow small, medium, and large organizations to have a different fee structure. We also have a lot more resources for consortia, and we're hoping to, in 2023, to increase value to member organizations by having a trust marker summary for ORCID records, which will help organizations gauge trusted connections in the ORCID records. So, yeah, that's a recap.
Great. Thanks for that, Brian. Quite enlightening, and I'm sure our viewers will find that very useful. Now, as you're aware, the AAF runs and manages the Australian ORCID Consortium. To add more value for our members, ORCID have come out with the ORCID member portal. Could you tell us, as I understand, look, the member portal is a suite of tools, right? So could you tell us how these tools provide value and benefit to our members?
Yeah, certainly. We developed the member portal to allow member organizations to have access to the large amount of metadata within the ORCID registry. The ORCID member portal is a separate interface, so that's accessed by each member organization, each member organization has a main technical and communication contact. So that's someone that the organization designates to communicate with ORCID, and we send that one of those people credentials to access the member portal, and they can maintain their own staff's access to the member portal. So what's in the member portal? The member portal offers a view of the organization identifiers for your institution. So your RORs, your grids, your Ringolds, also your contacts. There's a member report that has a large overview of everything regarding your organization from within the ORCID registry. There's an integration report, which will give details of the integration or integrations from your member institution. And finally, there's an affiliation report, which has all of the employment, education, membership service details from your institution visible to you.
Sweet. That sounds quite a lot, and it makes things a bit easy with regards to reporting, especially for our consortium members. Because not only does it allow members to find out how ORCID's benefiting them, but also how it helps benefit their researchers. Now, before we take any questions, there has been one question on my mind for a while, because every time I talk about ORCID, I keep telling that, look, ORCID is something that you can enter once and then reused every time. However, I'm sure you may have seen this with organizations internationally, when some of them look at upgrading their existing systems from ORCID to a newer system. Do you think it makes sense for them to reuse existing ORCID credentials from their old systems?
Yeah, certainly it does, depending on the case. It's possible to reuse those if the organization does not want to reach out to the same people within their community. Again, in a separate instance. So that would be the case
Right.
for reusing.
And are there any other benefits to reusing credentials?
Sure. For instance, if you have a repository, existing connection with ORCID, and your university has come up with a CRIS system or some kind of expanded system that has more capability, you would certainly probably want to keep that existing credentials and just let AAF, your consortia lead, or ORCID know of the details of your new system. So, for instance, the credentials consist of a client ID, and when each person authenticates to ORCID, that's what's called a token. When we first review your integrations, we're quite strict on reviewing the fact that everyone is authenticating and seeing that you're storing your tokens. So the structure of the API is the client ID and tokens are connected. They can't be changed. Everything else about the integration, where it points to, what system it uses, can be changed. So if you have, say, an existing API client with 400 tokens, that's 400 researchers you've already reached out to who have granted your system permission, you can then edit the URLs and such by letting us know, and then your 400 tokens and researchers then move on to your new system seamlessly and without any hiccups.
Cool. So just to summarize that, what you're effectively saying is that if a member organization has already, say, about 400 or 500 researchers that have authorized to the old system, as and when they upgrade that to the new system, rather than getting those 400 or 500 researchers to reauthorize again, they can just migrate the existing tokens to the new system if they reuse their ORCID credentials. Is that a proper summary of things?
That's absolutely correct. So,
fantastic.
Yeah, the reusing the client ID means all of the tokens previously associated that go along with it. So it's really a seamless exercise.
Beautiful. That makes things so much more easy. Well, I believe we still have some time left for a couple of questions from our viewers. So if you guys have any questions at all, please put them in the chat window and we shall answer them.
Any questions?
Yes, there is one question. It is asked, how can I connect with someone using a similar system? So I'm assuming what this means is if we have members that are using different vendor systems, how can they be connected with other members who are also using similar sort of systems? I guess the answer to that's quite simple. Look, if you're using a particular vendor system, it could be one of the many, like it could be Symplectic Elements, it could be Pure, it could be university offices, it could be any one of those vendors. Just get in touch with us at support@aaf.edu.au, especially if you're an Australian ORCID Consortium member, And what we'll do is we can connect you with other members within the consortium who've got similar sort of vendor systems. And that way then we can help form a community of practice so as to speak. But with regards to ORCID in general, would it make sense for members to directly contact you guys, ORCID, if they want to be put in touch with members with similar sort of system?
Sure, that's also a possibility. Both AAF and ORCID can happily connect you with other people using, say, Elements or Pure or ePrints or what have you. We work a lot with various member organizations that we know use similar systems. ORCID also tries to do a lot of outreach and events on particular systems. So very recently we had a wonderful event with lens profiles, which is kind of a unique vendor system, but they highlighted how they worked with ORCID. So we work quite closely with those other systems. So just reach out and let us know.
Beautiful. Oh, there's another question. How do we move users from one integration to another without users experience having any effect? So without the users actually seeing any change. I'm hoping what they mean is that to users the change is transparent whichever system you move from in the backend. So can you have a seamless transition? Is that possible?
Yeah, so that's a good question. That's more or less what we were describing earlier. Let's say, for example, you have your users already authenticated on a platform that, say, is you guys move by changing the name or the URLs that it points to. Those users will also migrate to that. So I think I can give an example. My own ORCID record, I have some systems which I've authenticated to. They've changed owners or changed shape in some form, but they still have permission to access my ORCID record unless I don't want them to. But
right. So what you're saying is that even though those vendors or systems you've given permission to have changed in the background, right, you're still seeing the same sort of updates come through. You're still seeing the same same sort of additions being put into your ORCID record, and that hasn't changed, nor have you had to reauthorize those systems. That's beautiful. Right. I think that answers that question. So yes, it is possible to have seamless transition. Now, we've got one more question that says, we understand ERA, which is the Excellence in Research Australia, and EI, which is the Engagement and Impact Research Exercise. These have been discontinued for the future while there's a review going on. What can we do, or what can our consortium members do to be prepared for the next evaluation?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and actually applies even beyond Australia. So beyond, say, the hiccup in the ERA assessment. My recommendation is just to make sure that your institution, your researchers, have really full ORCID records. So, in other words, that their education, their employment, their works, if possible, their peer review, are all fully populated, so that when the next assessment comes out, in whatever form, more or less a well-populated ORCID record will help your community be ready for the next assessment. And whatever details those have will likely already be extant in a good ORCID record.
Fantastic, Brian. Thank you very much. So just to summarize, what you're saying is that by using their ORCID integration to ensure that their researchers' records are well populated, properly curated, and with all the right details, what it means is that as and when they have the research evaluation exercises come through, they'll be in a better position to do those exercises without too much burden. Yep.
Yes, yeah. Well, two things. Let's just say this. So with your integrations that you have, make sure you're connecting to those researchers with your systems, whatever they are. Are you repository, a CRIS, a human resources system. But then in addition, maybe in your outreach side, make sure that your researchers are also connecting with other systems beyond your organization. So perhaps having their funding coming from dimensions well populated. That's obviously not something, say, every uni in Australia can do, but if they know where to do that from outside systems, then that will help them and you as you're doing your institution's assessment later on down the road.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that, Brian. Well, that's all we have time for today, folks. I would like to thank Brian for taking the time to come down and visit us and talk to us about some of the interesting things ORCID are working on and have planned for 2023. Don't forget that if you want to view the video again, we will be putting it up on our YouTube channel. That's the AAF YouTube channel. So if you go to AAF and search for AUS Access Fed, so AUSACCESSFED, that's our YouTube channel, and you should be able to find this video there. Well, until next time, take care. See you.